Leo talks about Oracle application running on Oracle infrastructure. So that's where we are going to demonstrate today how Oracle application can be highly available, deployed in an Oracle cloud infrastructure. So this is the same architecture that Leo mentioned for one of the customer earlier, TrueGreen. So the application is, what we have chosen is JDEdwards. It's running across 2 availability domains, means two data center within the same region. So what we are demonstrating is Oracle has, application has multiple stack into it. The complete stack is running parallelly onto 2 different data centers. Left side, you can see it's more representing 81, which is one of the data center, and another similar replica onto 82. And these application is running on a 2-node rack cluster across ADs. So that's where I'll be also demonstrating how the high availability is concerned and are achieved. So this is kind of a complete stack, but what I'll be showcasing, because there are multiple layers, but interest of time, I'll be focusing more onto 2 stacks, like the JAS server, which is the main core application server, and the database server, how the redundancy is achieved for those 2 servers across ADs. So this is what kind of like we'll be demonstrating actually into the environment to have, like, we will be doing the JAS failover, the main application server for JDEdwards across ADs, sitting behind a public load balancer. And then also in the second use case, I'll just demonstrate how a 2-node rack can be failover, switch over across ADs for a data integrity. So I'll just go directly into the demo. So this is how the console looks like for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and that's where I have deployed this demo environment. Earlier, Leo talks about some of the governance aspect of it, like what are the capabilities that we offer in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So that's where I'll be showcasing some of those features. One of the features that we have developed is the compartments, which is kind of a logical separation of all your resources into a similar group. So we can have a company or enterprise having multiple line of businesses can have their resources run into their dedicated compartments. So they are kind of isolated from each other. So what we have done I have deployed my application into a JDE demo compartment. And that's where all of my applications are running in this compartment. And they are kind of logically separated with all the other workloads or all the resources that are running in my demo environment. So how we are achieving this logical separation, we also offer there are different policies that can restrict the access or the access to the environment. So what we can do, we have like multiple groups or users can be tied to multiple groups, and groups can be assigned with multiple policies that can allow how these governments can be implemented. And these policies, the way we have implemented is very user-friendly. It's like human-readable format. I can demonstrate, like for just demo purpose, I just created a couple of them. Like what if we just want to isolate DB administrators or a network administrator with like a whole enterprise JD admins. So let's suppose if I go in one of the policy statements, which is like a DB admin. So anyone who is a member of this group can have these 2 rights on this environment. So what are those rights are? Like if they are the DB admins, allow group JD demo DB admins to manage database family. So they can manage all the resources that are contained in a database family into the particular compartment only. So they are only restricted because maybe there may be multiple database administrators, each line of business having their own database administrator. We can assign that granular controls to the people. Second is like sometimes it happens like database administrator may have to have a read-only or other rights for instances. So it's not like we have multiple verbs that you can be assigned. You can manage, you can grant the read-only rights. So that's how I'm granting the read instances for the DB admins so that they can deploy and manage whole database family, but they cannot deploy any other instances into the compartment. So that's how you can granularize the control into your environment. Similarly, for the network administrator, what I'm assigning is like I'm assigning the virtual family, virtual networking. They can manage all the VCN networking, virtual networking into the environment, but they are not allowed to do anything else. They cannot deploy any other resources other than the virtual networking, which is their main domain is. And then also they may need to test and other resources, so that's where they can deploy they can read some of the information from the instances. I mean, this is just for example. You can similarly design the environment and the policy metrics as you go forward from there. This is like kind of a high level what can be achieved through IAM policies. The second, what I'm trying to showcase is like how my infrastructure is laid out. So what we have seen in the architecture, we see multiple layers, the web layers, app layers. Those are all the instances that are running into compute nodes. We offer multiple variants of the compute nodes. That's what earlier Leo also discussed. So let's suppose if I go and see, we offer the VM shapes and the bare metal, and they start all the way from 1 CPU to 52 OCPUs. And it's kind of very easy just to deploy them. And these, I mean, as you can see, if I go and see what are the available options, you can see all the way from single OCPU to 24 OCPUs for the VM shape. And if I choose the bare metal, you will see all the way up to 36 and 52 OCPU cores on a bare metal instances. So what in my environment, what I'm using very low-level VM just to demonstrate the main use case. Most of my instances are running only 1.2 shapes. The core system on my environment, I'm running like there are multiple layers, but all the systems that I have deployed, there are multiple ways you can deploy it. One of the availability concept that Leo discussed is like either you can have your application highly available across multiple ADs. Another is like we offer resiliency and redundancy within an AD. That's what we call it fault domain. So those are like an isolated zones within an AD that can be treated as a fault domain. They have separate power, they have separate resources, so you can distribute your application within different AD for a high availability. So I see like most of my applications are scattered across AD1 and AD2. That's where I'll be demonstrating most of it. Another piece that I want to showcase is how is my networking laid out. So if I go and see what is my networking construct is, this is the VCN core VCN that I have developed for this demonstration. This is a /16 CIDR that I have chosen. This is the maximum we can deploy on our cloud infrastructure, but you can go from /16 all the way down to /30. So if I see, what I have done is like I have distributed my application within my VCN into multiple subnets depending the nature of the workloads. So I have distributed them in multiple subnets. Subnets can be of two types, private subnets or a public subnets. Private subnets means they are completely isolated, they are off the internet, they are not even assigned a public IP. So what I am doing is only the DMZ zones, the public load balancer, I'm putting them in a public subnets. The rest all are in private subnets, and they are only being accessible through a Bastion host just for a security purpose. We can see like the subnets level, if these are the public subnets or the private subnets. See the load balancer and the Bastion host are the public subnet, rest are all private subnets. Just quickly, I'll showcase how, this is what my application that is deployed, and this is the main core Java server that is presenting the core application for JDEdwards. In the meantime, just to demonstrate the high availability and the failover, what I have done it like I have connected these servers through an enterprise manager, which are managing all these resources. So that's where my server manager is managing all my resources. Particularly, what we'll be demonstrating is two app servers, which is Jazz servers, Jazz 1 and Jazz 2. So right now, if I see they are, okay, I have to sign back in. Jazz 1 is a stop state, and then Jazz 2 is in running state. So if I go to my application, I can access my application. This application is loaded with some default data, and then I'll be using the address book to demonstrate how the data integrity is kept when the application is failover between ADs, between AD1 and AD2. So just to demonstrate a quick shortcut for address book. And there, I have already, I think there is some data, default data is loaded, and this is one of the user that I have created, which is a demo user. So probably we'll be using the same demo user to see like how it will be behaving during the failover scenario and the switchover scenario. And then probably we'll also be creating another user or modifying the user to demonstrate the data is kept integrated when we fail over from a primary AD to a secondary AD. If I go back and see, I have to make sure, just to showcase the failover part, which JAS servers I'm currently connecting. So looks like this is the JAS2 because this is the only server available. If I bring it down, the server, I should expect my application to crash and should not run because there is no other app server presenting the services. So I'm shutting down the JAS2 also. JAS1 is already in the shutdown state. And I will delete the log file just to demonstrate which server I'm connecting to so that we are sure like this is what we were connecting to. This is also in a stop state. Let's look how our application looks like. I got a 502 error, so it's not reachable to the JAS layer. I'll delete the log file just to clear up my concept and see like, okay, which servers are we connecting to? And I'll start the services again, both of them. So when the JAS servers are started, by default, they generate around like 299 KB of data, which is like they're trying to establish the keep alive messages and just see like the health check of it. And then that's we will see once they will brought up, we will see those logs files being generated. So it takes around 30 seconds to get it up because I'm running on a low 1.2, but this is all we offer. We can bump it up, scale up the application if needed. This is for just a demonstration purpose. That's what we are showcasing. So let's refresh it. I see my JAS1 is running, and it has a file size of log file of 299 KB. Let's see how is my JAS2. It's also running with the same file size. If I see and look into my JAS2 or JAS1 configuration file, it's just the initialization parameters that they have it. I'll go back to my application and see how my application behaves now. So it says like my application has been logged out, and now I have to log back in because the server was not available. And as soon as I get back in, I'll see one of the front JAS server will accept incoming traffic and will start populating its log files. I'm not sure which one is it. It can be either of it because both of them sits behind a load balancer. And then on the time of nature, which one brought up first will take the traffic first. And looks like it's a JAS2 server because I see the log file being incremented. If I go back to JAS1, I would expect to see log file is still saying 299, and it's just demonstrating the initial configuration and nothing more being added to it. Is this the initial configuration? JAS2, if I see, there are connection string being established, how it's being reacted. So now I know like my application is running on JAS2 and my application is connected. I can go back and see if I can pull up the database entry, which is on the back end getting into the same address book entries, and this is calling the logic server other components of the JDE's application stack, and all those stack components are highly available across ADs. I see like my JAS server is up. So to see like how my application will react in a failover scenario, I'll shut down this JAS server and see. I would expect now I'm shutting down the JAS2, which is my current JAS server, accepting it, and I would expect this to connections to get up and JAS1 to be main prime server, just to demonstrate like if it's accepting it, if everything is working as my desired expectations. Let's see. I would expect to sign out because my Jazz connection is now being established to a different Jazz server, which is Jazz1, and I should expect to see all those connection strings populating up into the log files of Jazz1. So let's see and go back on Jazz1 log file and see the size. I see the size is getting increased. All the connection strings are getting applied. I keep populating. So it looks like it should be up now. Yes, it's loading the data, and now my application has been failed over to the Jazz1. It was initially running on Jazz2 server, and now it has been failed over to Jazz1. And I can look all the data. Data is intact. Look for the same demo user. Yes, I can retrieve the demo user. Since interest of time, I have a short, I wanted to demonstrate how the failover would work on a database. I'll quickly try to demonstrate in 5 minutes, but it will take around 30 seconds more to fail it over the database. So let's suppose if these are the two servers, if I connect it, I connect to my Bastion host. And I see I have 2 node racks in 81 and 2 node rack in 82. So just for the connection string, I just created a shortcut for their connection. This is a node 1 for 81. This is node 2 for 82. Node 1 for 82. Node 2 for 82. So that's where I'll be connecting to the first node. Any one of it I can connect, but I'm connecting to the first node. And then I'll connect to my Oracle database and load the environmental variable, the database, and then I'll connect to my data card manager to demonstrate the failover, how would it work. So if I do the show configuration, I can see my primary database is JDBE Phoenix 2, which is in my 82, and then the failover database in 81. So I can just demonstrate the switch over to Phoenix 1 region. And this will start, data guard will kick in and will fail over or switch over my database from 82 back to 81. Here I can go back and log into 81.
Just a side question on one of the things I'm watching there. That Bastion host configuration, is that linked to the setup we did with the user accounts? And is that Bastion host part of the standard configuration?
No, it's just like, I mean, this is how we just, for the security and compliance purposes, that's where we have created Bastion host.
Okay.
It's just to achieve a security. So like all the private app servers that are not exposed to the internet, they're not accessible anything other than the Bastion host.
Okay, but the Bastion host would be part of when I set up my environment, there will be a Bastion host in my catalog as a standard component?
Yeah, it's just like a VM. You can create it as a Bastion host, and you can create it and create it as a Bastion host. So now I'll connect to. So go back to environment variables and copy the same database and go to the manager. And I would see, like right now, I would have lose the connectivity because the database is getting failed over, but I think it looks like it's failed over. So I can. Yeah. See, still failing over. I'm not able to retrieve the data, but once it's failed over, I can have it. So it looks like the failover is complete. Now TG1 Phoenix 1 is my primary database, and let's go back and see how my application is behaving. We can confirm it. We can confirm it here also. Oops. So now TG1 is my primary, which initially was Phoenix 277. Well, my application is up, and I can still hopefully retrieve my records. Yep. So that's conclude the demo, how we can fail over or deploy a highly available JDEdwards application across two ADs within the same region.